Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. What a weekend it was for Mississippi State. We needed a weekend like that as a fan base. Of course, the baseball sweep was expected. Maybe we didn't get the style points that many of you wanted, but we got 3 dubs, and that's what matters most. And, of course, big win on the men's basketball front. Tennis doing exceptionally well. Softball doing well. Yeah, good weekend. We didn't wake up this morning with really anything to complain about. And that's been a rarity for a while, but we'll never look a gift horse in the mouth. We'll just be grateful for what we have and the enjoyment of putting together a string of victories in multiple sports. Going to be a busy week for your Bulldog baseball team. Going to talk a lot baseball today. I've already talked a lot of baseball today. This morning, I had an exclusive interview with Skylar Meade, the head coach of Troy. If you're a Genes Page VIP subscriber, you can read that. Already interviewed Alcorn State's coach. That'll be available Wednesday morning. And we've already got our interview request in for Delaware. So yeah, we're on top of the game. It's Monday, but it's a work day every day in my life, and so we're always doing something. I enjoyed Sunday. I know many of you hate when we have to have a doubleheader on Saturday, but kind of gave me a chance to get caught up too and watch some college baseball. We'll kind of review some of that. And, of course, tonight the ladies will take on Arkansas in Fayetteville. By the time many of you listen to this show, that game will have already taken place. But nevertheless, we'll go through that, a game that we have to win. We simply have to win that game. And we should win that game. And, of course, Mississippi State men's basketball will be taking on Auburn. So, busy stretch, 5 baseball games, very busy week on the basketball front. Cool top 10 list today, and I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about the conspiracy theory that I have been reluctant to go along with for years, but in light of recent events, I'm beginning to think maybe I was wrong. That's part of our top 10 list today. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. Man, I love Bulldog Burger Company. I do. I loved them long before they were a sponsor for this show, and they have been with us for so many years. They treat me well. They treat you well. They treat everybody well because quality service is the name of the game. Yeah, it goes right along with the incredible options you have at Bulldog Burger Company. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. If you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, I would start with the Bulldog. You can't go wrong with the Bulldog. My favorite is the Pimentology add bacon, and I don't even like pimento and cheese sandwiches. But I love that pimento spread at Bulldog Burger Company. I can't explain it. I don't like uncooked onions. I love onion rings. I'm a mystery that is folded in on itself, right? So I encourage you to find your own favorites. Maybe if everybody else is feeling like a burger and you're not, maybe try that BLT salad. It is my favorite salad. I prefer it grilled. You may like it fried. I'm not judging. No matter how I get it doused with ranch dressings. I'm from South Mississippi. It's a requirement. But Bulldog Burger Company has a cure for what ails you. Go by and check them out. And as always, you probably have a college student here that you would love to do something nice for. I would encourage you to visit the eatwithus.com website and get a gift card that your favorite student can use at any of the eatwithus.com restaurants, including Bulldog Burger Company. Be sure and check that out and maybe elevate yourself on the ladder of appreciation in the hearts and minds of your favorite Mississippi State college student. All right, let's take a quick look back at the weekend. We're not going to break the whole thing down, but we're going to just kind of point out a few things here and there as we work through this. It was good to be back at the ballpark. I don't know how you guys felt. Of course, a school record for opening day. I can't say that was unexpected just because of the fact we're opening a new era and you guys are so desperate to win and you wanted to come out and show your support. So, hey, congratulations to all of you that were part of that record. It's a super cool thing. It is. And I did the math yesterday. We own 24 of the 25 on-campus attendance records in the history of college baseball. Arkansas has number 24. We get a couple of crowds this year, about 14,000 or so. We're going to on all 25, provided somebody else doesn't do that too. But chances are they won't. Chances are they won't. Of course, we start out the first game, and we were a little bit, I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word, but when you've got top 5 rankings, and you got teams forecasting you to make it to Omaha, and you're a team that hadn't won a regional the last couple of years, you got a new coach, you got a lot of new teammates, it's going to take some time to settle in. I kind of shared that before the season started. We might even drop a game or two that you're not expecting. Well, in the 4th inning, Hofstra goes up 2-0. And we're thinking, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. And Ryan McPherson, I thought, gave us a pretty good start. Didn't locate the breaking ball as well as he'd like to. Actually, just under 50% strike rate on the breaking ball. Fastball was good, but the analytics show the breaking ball wasn't at its best, and that's kind of what Ryan has to do. When he locates that breaking ball, he is just about unhittable. Rather than fade and start thinking, oh my gosh, this team is not respecting us, we're on the ropes, your Bulldogs come through here. And a few things I want to say about this particular half inning. Baseball is about execution, right? It's not always just about hitting home runs. Sometimes you're not going to have your best offensive performance. You still have to find a way to win the game. And that's kind of what this half inning was about. So we get a strikeout in Nunnally, and then Ace just hammers the ball to right field for a single. They walk Aiden Teal. Very lengthy at bat. I thought Aiden Teal looked like a leadoff hitter hitting behind Ace Reese. He spoils a lot of pitches. What a seasoned leadoff hitter looks like, right? A guy that's going to give everybody in a dugout a chance to see what the pitcher has. But, we get down in the count 0-1, work it back to 3-1, and then ultimately get the walk to push Ace to second. So now you got 2 men on, 1 out. They take a visit. Blake Beavis grounds out to second, and really the only play there was to first. So now you got runners at second and third with 2 down. So we're a pop-up away from getting out of this with nothing. Instead, Reed Stallman, who Brian O'Connor has called one of the most consistent hitters this spring, rips one down the right field line, 2 runs scored to tie the ball game, and then suddenly there is joy in Starkville. Ryder Woodson, who I thought played a really good shortstop, didn't have a great weekend at the plate. He gets a walk here, and on that play, Stallman takes third. The next thing you know, there is a wild pitch, and Stallman scores. Fry then walks, wild pitch, we send a runner to third. Then we run a little bit of a double steal action here. Fry basically gets out there, kind of the Kentucky USSSA play. Everybody kind of panics, and what's so funny, Coach Cat, I talked to him earlier in the week, and he goes, against Kentucky, they ran this play where they just fell down out there. It's kind of the same thing. We're trying to get hung up in a rundown and steal a run. We do. Makes it 4-2. Now, I've read with great interest some people saying, hey, we were lucky in this inning. We were not lucky in this inning. We executed at a higher level than Hofstra did. We got them on the ropes a little bit. You get a big hit. Next thing you know, the pitcher kind of blows up a little bit. Can't find the zone. And you're allowing runners to advance. Those runs still count, right? And so it's so important to understand we run a play late to steal an additional run, and it works for us. It works because we created the anxiety. We exerted pressure on them, and they cracked under that pressure. So now it is 4-2 state, and give Hofstra a lot of credit. They bounce right back, and they answer in the 5th to make it a 4-3 ball game. And then your Bulldogs do what good teams do. They find a way to answer again. And let's just kind of go back here to the 5th. It's also interesting, right? I go back to this top of the 5th. We get a couple of punch outs, and then we walk a guy, right? On a 1-2 count, With 2 down, you walk. And how many times do you see it happen, right? It's 667,000% of the time with a 2-out walk that come around to score. I mean, all numbers approximated. And then Corona, former Missouri Tiger and Wake Forest Demon Deacon, makes us pay, doubles to center, and the run scores. But Bulldogs do some good stuff here. And this is one of those moments where I think you kind of find out what you're made of. So we get 2 quick outs in the inning. And then they plunk Reese. And then there's Aiden Teal again, who gets walked. Pushes Reese to second. Well, then Beavis walks. Now the bases are loaded. They make a pitching change. And then Reed Stallman is walked on 4 pitches. Pushes the run across. And then they balk a run home. Now it's a 6-3 game. And again, here we go. Like that self-loathing segment of fan base. Oh, we got lucky. No, we didn't. No, we did not. We didn't get lucky. Baseball is about pressure. And the teams that win and the players that excel understand it's not just you feeling pressure. You can exert pressure. You can put pressure on the opposing team. That's what happens here. You don't execute the rules of baseball. You don't throw balls and strikes. You lose. And so Mississippi State really, without the benefit of a hit here, is able to get a couple runs home. And, walks are part of the game. Balks are part of the game. We executed at a higher level than they did. So it's a 6-4 ball game going to the 9th inning. And, they push a run in to make it kind of interesting. You go back and you feel like, hey, this kind of is what it is. But, we kind of, again, we can't accept in victory what we wouldn't accept in defeat. And that's Joe Moorhead, 316. But they sent a pinch hitter up there. We get an 0-2 count. He takes back-to-back strikes, and what happens? We hit him with the pitch. So now all of a sudden the tying run comes to the plate. We get the catcher Biddle to strike out, who was a 9-hole hitter. And then Mike Brown, who I thought was a really tough out for Hofstra, doubles to left center. Now tying runs are in scoring position. They get an RBI sac fly, and then we get Castrotaro to strike out swinging. So here we go, applying pressure to ourselves. We don't execute a pitch, and so we get a guy that's on the rope for an 0-2 count, and we give him the opportunity to get on base. And so that's on us. That's on us. And then we handled that situation, get out of there with a win. So that's game one. And again, I saw some of the tweets, and people are like, well, Steve, that doesn't look like a top 10 team. Guys, not hardly anybody looks like a top 10 team this time of year. Not to mention all the reconstruction we've had to do. So the reality of it is, we get a dub. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes it can feel like everybody else has it all together when it comes to their love lives. Whether you're married, dating, or single, the truth is, most of us are still figuring it out as we go. No matter where you are in your own romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way, help you determine what you want, what feels heavy, and how maybe you could take some of the pressure off yourself. We get it. February's full of flowers, candy, candlelight dinners, stuffed animals, and of course, lots of talk about relationships and dating. You may feel left out. And no matter where you are, whether you're married, dating, or single, or just focusing on yourself, you're right on time. Therapy can help you find your way and see more clearly where you want to be. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and their 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. But if you aren't happy with your match, switch. You can find a different therapist at any time from our tailored recommendations. BetterHelp. We're going to have some games that are lopsided too, but we faced a legit pitcher. He kind of ran out of gas. Of course, rain changes things up. I really thought the Hamilton kid in Game 2 Even though they lose this game, the biggest margin of the weekend, I think the job that Sean Hamilton did for Hofstra enabled them to be more competitive in Game 3. And I'm going to explain to you what I meant. So we jump all over them in the first inning. And I'm thinking, okay, it'd be nice to get this one done early since we have 2 today. But, Ace gets it doubled and Sully's hit by a pitch. And Stallman's hit by the pitch. Bases loaded. Again, not executing pitches. Then he walks Teal. Forces in a run. Woodson with an RBI sac fly makes it 2-0. And then Bryce Chance, maybe the best hitter in recent memory with 2 outs. Singles back at the middle, run scores. It's 3-0. And again, you put some pressure on yourself and Mississippi State makes you pay for it. And I really thought, I was like, yeah, 3-0. This guy, listen, he's a soft tossing right-hander. Those guys typically don't hang around a lot against SEC teams. And then we get a 1-2-3 in the second. Well, then we go 1-2-3, and we get struck out all 3 times, including top of the order. Everybody goes down swinging. So that's a calming effect on Hamilton. Well, then they string some things together, and I thought Valinkas did a good job here. Really did. You start getting a little bit of anxiety here. Of course, Mike Brown's hit by the pitch. And then we get a big punch out on 3 pitches to get out of it. Gets a 2-hole hitter. And then Sully hits the ball in the right. Looks like it's going to be a sure double. I thought it looked like a wet track out there for everybody. I mean, you look up, the ball's rolling around out there, and then Sullivan's like 2 steps past first. And he gets thrown out at second. There were a couple other times we're trying to steal bases, and it just kind of felt like things were just kind of sluggish on the field. No disrespect to anybody. That's kind of how it looked. And the next thing you know, we're out of it. So back-to-back innings for Hamilton, he faces the minimum. And then in the fourth, I thought it was a really good situation. We walk Castrataro, and then we keep him close, and then Valinkas rolls up a double play ball, so we get out of it. And then Griggs, who had a great weekend for Hofstra, strikes out looking. Again, a chance for us to kind of do some things here in the fourth. We get a runner to scoring position with less than 2 outs, so we can't really do much with him. We do get him over to third, but can't get him home. So again, since that 3-0 outburst, that's 3 consecutive innings that Hamilton has really kept us at bay. Not much brewing there in the fifth for Hofstra, but then State kind of breaks it open here. Again, Nunnally, I believe that's his first hit as a Bulldog, doubles to right center. Then Reese doubles. They just basically trade places. Sullivan grounds out, but we get the runner to third. And then Stallman again doubles down the right field line, pushes a run in. It's a 5-0 ball game now. And that's it. Hamilton is chased. They bring in Bedford, who I thought did a pretty good job for them as well. But, top of 6, nothing really brewing, for them. Bottom of 6, we don't do much. Top of 7, same situation. And all of a sudden, the game kind of began to drag a little bit. They bring in Spagnoli in place of Bedford. Again, I thought Bedford did a good job. He walks Nunnally. Reese pops up. Sullivan flies out. Nunnally still second, and Stallman strikes out looking. So even though we get the leadoff runner on, we can't do anything with him. Nothing really going on for Hofstra in the 8th. Bottom of 8, we have some chances here, but it's late, right? And I give Bryce Chance a lot of credit here. And I asked Brian O'Connor about this in postgame. Guys, it's a 5-0 game in the bottom of the 8th. It is our final at-bat of this game, the first game of a doubleheader. We're going to be there a long time. Bryce Chance has a professional 80-grade at-bat right here. It's great. He gets down 1-2 in the count, and he works and works and works and works and works, and then it's a base on balls. And then he reads it well. He reads it in the dirt. And I know a lot of guys that wouldn't take this chance, especially on a slower track. Bryce gets a great secondary, balls in the dirt. He reads downward trajectory, right? Down angle. He takes the bag. It's a wild pitch, but it's really a veteran player making a play, reading the situation. Well, Maluski walks. In the middle of that walk, there's a pass ball too. So then Bryce goes to third. And then what happens, Garrick Fry, who came in and pinch hit for Ged Sanders, singles to the right side and Chance scores. None of that happens without Bryce Chance being a team-first guy. None of that. And you say, but Steve, it was a 5-0 ball game. That's all the more reason it's impressive. That the culture is the culture regardless of the margin. That bodes well for the future. And again, give Milewski a lot of credit too. He laid off some breaking stuff in that at-bat that he struggled with earlier in the game. So 6-0, and then with 2 outs in the ninth, Griggs hits an Oppo Taco to make it 6-1. And Bulldogs win. Bulldogs win. We've secured the series, but as you and I both know, in non-conference play, we want it all. We want it all. There's no question about that. We want things to go well. Well, Charlie Foster, who I am extremely high on, really struggled that first inning and really kind of got behind everybody. I mean, I think the first, I'm looking at it right now, he gets behind every single hitter up to the home run, right? So Brown singles, DeVito goes down swinging, Castrotaro walks, lengthy at bat there. We got down 3-0 and come all the way back and make it a full count. Couldn't finish. And then Corona strikes out swinging. You think, okay, we have a chance to get out of this. They run a double steal. It didn't matter because Griggs hit a home run and he absolutely smoked it. And it's 3-0. And we're like, okay, this is how this feels. A lot of ball game left, obviously. Reese doubles, Sullivan walks, and then Teal, his first hit as a Bulldog, drives in the run to make it 3-1. And you kind of felt like we just needed to get some kind of answer there. We'd love to get the crooked number, but just wanted to get something on the board. Well, then Galelo opens up with a double off Charlie, but Charlie's like, nah, we're good. Gets a fly out and back-to-back punchies. He kind of settled in here. Bottom of the second, State gets some things going. Fry gets the bunt down, but really bunted it right back to the pitcher. James gets to walk, Sean James. Nunley doubles down the right field line. Now all of a sudden you got runners in scoring position. They make a change here, and then Ace hits a moonshot to right center to give State the lead 4-3. A lead that, we just felt like we'd be okay. Charlie Foster comes back here in the top of the third, and I think this is kind of lost a little bit in translation. Charlie gets a 1-2-3 inning. So he ends the outing retiring 6 in a row. Yeah, I mean, go back and think about that for a second. That first inning, he was a little bit nervous. He's clearly a guy that's got to build up a little mental toughness to understand that he belongs to this era, at this level. But shaky first inning, obviously, but retires 6 in a row after that leadoff double in the second to close out the outing in a very positive manner. So State's up 4-3. It kind of stays here for a while. It just kind of felt like, you know what, we need to get some things going offensively, string some hits together, or we're going to be having to scrap here at the end. And you know what? We had to scrap there at the end. Top of 5, Hofstra pull is even. Craig opened up with a single, and then there's a fielder. They moved the runner along, and then there's a walk. We take a mound visit. DeVito walks. And Bill Winsley was good in the fourth. In the fifth, he kind of got a little bit shaky. We had 6 walks on the weekend from the bullpen. 3 of them came in this half inning with Bill Winsley, who I still think is going to be okay. We bring in Dane Burns. He gets a punch out. I thought he had Griggs too. I really did. I thought you got to be a little bit careful with Griggs, but I thought Dane would have the ability to kind of work away from him and get us out of there. He ends up walking him, forces in a run to give them the 5-4 lead. And again, we didn't execute there, right? People talk about, hey, well, we didn't get a hit. Well, they didn't either. That's the game of baseball. So State's down 5-4. Not for long, though. Not for long. We get Sully on, leadoff walk. Those are always great. They balk him to second. Again, not executing. Beavis fouls out, and then Teal singles to the left side to send Sullivan to third, and then Chance. It's basically a sack here. They rule it an error because the sacrifice was down. We get the run home there, and then they mishandle it. So you're credited with the sack bunt and the RPI, but they do charge an error on the pitcher. It was the right call. Fry grounds out. Woodson then walks, and then Sean James singles to left field to drive in 2. And we get in a little bit of a rundown there. It got a little bit ambitious there. We had a couple of base running blunders. You go back to the first inning of the first game, and Nunnally just kind of moseys off there, just trying to make a play. From here, the Bulldog bullpen just pretty much kind of shut things down, right? I mean, yet we hit the 9-hole hitter, but outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot going on. We get to the 5th without a lot of damage there, and then we're 1-2-3 in the 6th. They're 1-2-3 in the 7th. We have a chance again here in the 8th. Chance singles to center, and it's still second, but Fry can't get him around. And again, it's a 2-out at bat for Chance. Could have been selfish. Could have said, hey, I'm going to swing for the fences, see if I can't drive up some numbers here. But instead, we're just going to smack a ball right into center field and get on base and extend the inning. That's what we do. Good Bulldog. Top of 8, they get a leadoff single, and then the next thing you know, we pick him off, get a ground out and a line out, and it just felt like things were going our way. Ryder Woodson gets a big double down the right field line, and would have loved to get him in here because we actually get him at third on a wild pitch, and then we can't get it done. Ground out to second, and then back-to-back punch-outs. We've got to get that run home. We go back to game 2, right, when Bryce Chance gives us the opportunity to tack on, right? We have the opportunity here, and the guys couldn't pick him up. Top 9, and it got a little interesting here, I guess. We get the strikeout, and there's a hit by pitch on 0-2. Again, here we are. Maddox Webb's first appearance as a Bulldog. Pass ball and DeVito singles. So now all of a sudden the Tyne Warrens are on base in scoring position with less than 2 out. And then Webb throws this angry closer fastball, and we get back-to-back strikeout swinging. So we win. And all 3 games end in a save opportunity. You probably weren't expecting that at the beginning of the weekend. But it is what it is. And we threw a lot of guys. And I ran the numbers, wrote this article yesterday, just happened to have them right here in front of me. Bulldog bullpen throws 14 2/3 of an inning, allow 10 hits, 6 runs, 21 strikeouts, and 6 walks. And as mentioned, 3 of those came in 1/2 inning in the Bill Winsley game. And that's not talking trash about Bill Winsley. I do believe he's going to help us. But my point being is that it wasn't like up and down. It's like one dude just kind of lost it in his second inning ever at Duty Noble Field in a game that really matters. But Ace Reese, obviously, big weekend for him, even though not by Ace's standards, I guess. He's hitting .417, 5 for 12 on the weekend. Reed Stallman hit .375, 3 for 8. Bryce Chance, 3 for 10. And a lot of good things when Bryce is up there with 2 outs. But by and large, offensively, we were not what we expected to be. And, of course, Noah Sullivan misses the first game due to a suspension. But I think we're going to have a good week this week offensively. Look at pitching numbers. Valenkas was great. Credited with the win on Saturday. He works into the 6th and comes out with some cramp, but he's fine. 6 strikeouts to 1 walk. Brendan Sweeney, I thought, was really good too. I thought the bullpen was really good. Ryan McPherson, we talked about Ryan. He goes 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned. 4 punchies against no walks. You like that. But when he can't locate the breaking ball, people are going to sit fastball. We talked about Charlie Foster a little bit. 3 hits, 3 runs, and 3 innings. But again, it ends well, and I think Charlie will be better for the experience. But anyway, yeah, a good start. Not a great start. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't have liked a little more margin. I would. I'd love for us to at least mercy ruled that game 3. And again, back to my comment about Hamilton, he gets shelled that first inning. But then he eats up innings, which allows them to save some relief arms on game 3. Because you're down 5-6 runs, you're not going to go out there and spend the great arm when you have another game to play. You basically kind of punt here. You get some guys some work and give their guys some credit. They had some young guys kind of step up and eat up innings and get a hold and keep the game where it was. But if Hamilton doesn't get out of the second inning, you probably get that 10-run rule game in game 3. Because the game would have still been in doubt and you still got a lot of innings to cover. So you're not in the second inning of game 2 of a 3-game weekend, or you're just going to throw your hands up and say, okay, this is over with. No, there's too much baseball to be played. But because Hamilton works deep, it allows him to save some premium arms for game 3. And that's the way you manage a baseball game. So give Coach Cat and those guys a lot of credit. But at the end of the day, they leave town 0-3, and we are 3-0 now, headed into matchup with Troy. And we'll talk a little more about that later in the show. All right, time for our Close with Blair Player of the Day, brought to you by Blair Chandler at Close with Blair. His phone number, 601-500-2344, 601-500-2344. Blair is a mortgage professional. Your mortgage is too important to entrust to just anybody. You may end up in a bad deal. You may be in a situation where things maybe spiral out of control. Because a lot of people think, just get me in the house, I'll figure it out. Well, why not just get the best deal up front? And that's what Blair Chandler can do for you. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, Blair is the only name to know. Maybe you're looking to refinance. Maybe you're looking for that game day condo, which may be more affordable than you think. Or maybe the dream of home ownership has eluded you. It may be because the timing was wrong. It may be because you had the wrong loan originator. Well, I'm here to give you a life hack, right? Get that pre-qualification letter from Blair. That lets your real estate agent know that you have financing in place, and you can see them jump into orbit, getting you into your new home. I would love for all of you to have that opportunity, right? So we give you Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. 25 years of experience in the industry. Be sure and check him out today. He is a Bulldog through and through, season ticket holder in multiple sports, has a place here in town, also newly remarried, so he could use the business. Now with Fairway Mortgage, doing a great job for you and all of his clients. It doesn't matter what school you cheer for. We'd love for you to be able to build some generational wealth and have something to leave your children. closewithblair.com. All right, time for today's top 10 list, brought to you by Kalido Guitars. That's C-A-L-I-D-O Guitars.com. It's a Mississippi State owned and operated guitar shop out in Lake Jackson, Texas. Daniel and the crew do such an amazing job. I've been so incredibly satisfied with everything that I've got from them. I got a guitar stand, I got a gig bag, I got a Steve Vai signature original guitar. It is one of my most prized possessions. It is the most beautiful instrument I have ever owned in my life. I've never owned a new guitar until this one. Everything else I've either bought from friends or somebody's gifted to me, or perhaps got from a pawn shop. I mean, just because I didn't want to make a major investment. But you know what? Kalido Guitars made it easy for me. They can make it easy for you too. Whether you're looking for a beginner's guitar, an intermediate guitar, or a professional grade guitar, you can find it at Kalido Guitars. And it's not like just dealing with some big operation, man, where they just go grab a box out of the warehouse and just slap a label on it, ship it out to you, and then hope for the best, right? They take it out, they inspect it, they set it up to your specifications, and they get it out to you. You can call them and tell them exactly what you want. We've had some people do that. Say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. They're like, no problem. We can handle that, because they love each and every one of you. And I love the fact that we've had so many testimonials from so many people that have had a great experience with Kalido Guitars. So everything you need to be a better player, you can find. Gig bags, cases, strings, all the accessories, anything you need, guitar related, you can find with them. Maybe it's a banjo you need. Maybe it's a ukulele. Maybe it's a violin or a fiddle, depending on your persuasion. They can help you with every bit of that. Be sure and check them out at Kalido Guitars, and they give you some incentive to do so. Promo code BSR. We wanted to keep it simple. You can use it over the phone. You can use it in person. You can use it online. That's going to enable you to get a 10% discount off their already low price. That's going to get you no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. That's going to get you free shipping. And they're going to make a 5% donation based on your purchase price to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. What a great incentive, right? You win, they win, Mississippi State wins, and when Mississippi State wins, we all win, right? No matter how you look at it, it's a great place to do business. Kalido Guitars. Okay. Now, we're going to get more to this story a little bit later. as you guys know, I'm a huge Chris Cornell fan, and really discovered the glory of Soundgarden when I was in drug rehab. Now, I knew about Soundgarden, right? They were the first grunge band to sign with a major label. Maybe you didn't know that, but it's true. It's true. A&M Records. It was kind of a bidding war. But Soundgarden, of course, I remember watching MTV, and I can't remember who the VJ was. Maybe it was China Cantor. I used to have a thing for her. I think we all did. But I said, hey, Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses says this band's the next big thing. And it was Soundgarden, and Guns took sound out on a nationwide tour, and things really began to take off for them, right? When Louder Than Love came out and Hands All Over, you're like, hey, this is something completely different. This is different. It's rock, but it's different. Well, in the middle of all of this, and I want to make sure we get some dates right here, okay? So, the album Temple of the Dog, which I think everybody from that era had this album. If you don't, you should, right? It is it's a platinum album, and Andrew Wood, the lead singer of Mother Love Bone, of course, born in Columbus, Mississippi. Maybe you didn't know that. True story. Born in Columbus, Mississippi, January 8th, 1966. And he died March 19th of 1990. Shortly after he died, Soundgarden had to go on the road. They had to put a lot of things together. Chris wrote a couple of songs, was worried a little bit about the guys in Mother Love Bone because, the release of Apple, the one album from Mother Love Bone, had been delayed. And so Chris just thought, hey, you guys, Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament, who eventually formed Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam is basically Mother Love Bone-ish with a new singer. And so they were going to put a couple of singles together, and that was going to be the end of it. Well, eventually, Chris says, hey, let's get a whole album together, and maybe we'll take some songs you guys are working on, and we'll put a full-length album together. And they do. 10 tracks, which gives us a chance to put a top 10 list together. But nevertheless, what's interesting about this album, it was recorded in November, late November, early December of 1990. So less than a year after Andy had passed away. Took about 2 weeks to record everything. And so Bad Motorfinger, which was the album that really broke Soundgarden, didn't come out until about a year later. It was released October 8th, 1991. And it was recorded in the early months, January and February of 91. So basically, they had to get this Temple of the Dog thing together and then work on Soundgarden stuff. So it was originally released April 16th, 1991. The Temple of the Dog album was. Bad Motorfinger didn't come out for months later. About 6 months later. And the reason that's important is because this album, Temple of the Dog, just kind of sat without much attention. Because Pearl Jam wasn't even a thing yet. And Soundgarden at this point was just an opening act. It was Bad Motorfinger that thrust Soundgarden into headlining status. And then, of course, Pearl Jam exploded. Well, the very first song that Eddie Vedder ever recorded was part of the Temple of the Dog sessions. He had just accepted the gig with Pearl Jam. Once Pearl Jam began to explode and Soundgarden hit a new level, then the record company decided, hey, let's re-release this Temple of the Dog thing and kind of ride the wave, the current of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and the whole grunge movement. And it basically introduced Mother Love Bone and Andy Wood to all of us that love Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. So that's where we are. So I thought, hey, let's do a top 10, and I'll get to this whole conspiracy thing as we get to number 1. Number 10, a song that was actually written by Stone Gossard, who of course is the rhythm guitar player in Pearl Jam. It's the longest, I guess, second longest track on the album, but it's Four Walled World, and it was something he was kind of toying with when he was with Mother Love Bone. Number 9, a track called Your Savior. Pretty good track, not as good as some of the other stuff. Number 8, and I absolutely love this song. This is one of the best songs I think Stone Gossard's ever written. And part of this became Footsteps for Pearl Jam. But on Temple of the Dog, it's Times of Trouble. That's your number 8 track. Number 7, a little bit of Flim Flam trivia here too. There is a chapter in Flim Flam entitled Pushing Forward Back. That is a track off of the Temple of the Dog album. It's my little inside joke with myself. It's not really a joke. It's just more of a tribute to Soundgarden and to Mother Love Bone and to Pearl Jam. It's my way of using a Temple of the Dog track that kind of fits the topic of that particular chapter. So if you've read Flim Flam, you've read that chapter, Pushing Forward Back, and maybe you never knew what that really meant. Well, that's where it comes from. Number 6, I love this, and occasionally I hear this played in pool halls around the great country. And I don't know if it's a jukebox thing or just happens to be part of the playlist or whatever, but it's a track called All Night Thing, and it's been a few places. It's been on some movie soundtracks and things of that nature. It's a great, great, great song. Number 5. It's Reach Down. And this is basically a song to Andy. It's about Andy's memory. Reach down and pick the crowd up. There's a lot with that is very interesting, right? And I tell you what else is interesting too, for those of you that don't know the history of Mother Love Bone, is one of my favorite tracks from the Apple album is Man of Golden Words. And there's a line in Man of Golden Words where Andy sings, "It feels like I've been living in the Temple of the Dog." And of course, that became the title of this project. Number 4, I don't know this song gets enough play. It's a Chris Cornell classic in my mind. And it's a track called Wooden Jesus. And it's basically kind of like Man's Search for Meaning. And he's telling like the little Jesus on his dashboard, can I be saved? If I can't, I'll cut you in on 20% of my future sin. It's a very introspective song, and it's one that I think is probably, again, one of these albums and one of these songs that just didn't catch with people, but it should have. Number 3, Chris Cornell continued to perform this with his solo sets, and it is a great love song. It truly is. It's basically about a guy and a girl, and she's a little bit emotional, and he's a little more rational. And it's called Call Me a Dog. And I love this. I love this song so much. It's like, you call me a dog, but I don't call you anything if I call at all. And basically what it means is I'm not going to meet bitterness with bitterness. That I love you. You can call me whatever you want, but I'm not going to respond in kind. And that's really what the song is about. And it's kind of a sad song, but it also is kind of a beautiful song too, that this guy's so in love with this girl that he just will never allow himself to be gaslighted into saying something that he regrets. Number 2, and it was actually the first song written for the Mother Love Bone project. And it's Say Hello to Heaven. And Chris and Andy were best friends and former roommates. And it is one of those things that stayed with Chris the rest of his life. But Say Hello to Heaven is a song that everybody knows. And it's been played at a lot of funerals. And I think in many respects it keeps Andy's memory alive. All right, so now we're at number 1. And those of you that know Temple of the Dog, you know what number 1 is. It's Hunger Strike. I get chills even telling you this story because I have been very reluctant. In the years since Chris Cornell's death, there have been all these conspiracy theories that Chris was privately funding, like this documentary, this investigative expose into sex trafficking and about a lot of other things that were kind of untoward in the entertainment industry. I've never believed it. I said, it's just people making up something. That people say, well, that Chris Cornell was murdered. He didn't really kill himself. And I don't know. I do recall from the initial reports that Vicky Cornell, that her and Chris had a difficult conversation, and then Chris quit responding to her, and she reached out to Chris's security guard, and they gained entrance to the room, and Chris is hanging there, and which to this day still bothers me. It is the celebrity death that stays with me because so much of my recovery, the soundtrack of my recovery, was written by Chris Cornell, written and performed by Chris Cornell. In fact, on my Chris Cornell lower leg sleeve, I've got lyrics to Fell on Black Days. Part of the second verse, Fell on Black Days, is with me forever. And so I shared that with you about my reluctance to believe this conspiracy theory. I saw something last night, a video, that gave me chills. And, some people are like, hey, this is proof. This is proof. Well, it's not really proof of anything, right? And sometimes the absence of proof is not proof of anything either. There are a lot of people that would say, well, Steve, if there was anything to this, it would have been made public. I don't think that's true. Because I think there are some things that have happened in life that are so incredibly heinous that people are scared to say anything. And if you believe that Chris Cornell was murdered and that perhaps Chester Bennington was murdered, and again, that's such a big step for me, then you have to think that people that may have knowledge of this to protect their own skin maybe are reluctant to speak on the topic. But somebody brought this up. With all that has popped up in recent years about this alleged cult out in Hollywood and, the whole thing about them kidnapping babies from across the border and stuff, I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true. But there is a lot of chatter out there that at least has my antennas up to consider that, maybe there's some things we don't know. I'm confident there's some things we don't know. Are they this untoward? I don't know about that. But I saw a video, and it brought these lyrics up to me from Hunger Strike. And again, I know it sounds crazy. But does it sound crazy because we're maybe not ready to believe it, or we just can't let our minds go there? So first off, I don't mind stealing bread from the mouths of decadence. Well, you got to, you can use your own interpretation of that. Right? I've always felt like it's almost like a Robin Hood thing, right? These people have so much in the way of excess that I don't mind stealing bread from them, right? But the next line is, but I can't feed on the powerless when my cup's already overfilled. Very beautiful lyrics, right? But it's like, I don't mind taking from those who have, but I refuse to take from those that don't, especially when my life is already so blessed. And then here's the part. And some of the lyrics I think are interesting. But it's on the table. The fire's cooking. And the former babies of slaves are all working. And blood is on the table. The mouths are choking. Now, there are some other people that suggest that the lyric is actually, and they're farming babies, and the slaves are all working. And blood is on the table. The mouths are choking. Somebody else tried to tell me that the miles are choking. That makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. And so as this person suggested, these lyrics just hit a little bit different in hindsight. And again, I'm not ready to let my mind go there, but there's a part of me that wonders, is there something to this? Is this a scenario that maybe Chris Cornell was close enough to this and it's like, hey, but I'm going hungry, means I'm not going to participate in this. Like, these things are happening, but I'm not going to participate. And then maybe did that ultimately lead to him to try to break the case on this and fund this documentary thing? And like, somebody tried to argue with me last night and said, well, the filmmaker would have come out and said, yes, Chris was trying to do this. I would suggest they probably would not. If this, especially with Chris just comes up dead under auspicious circumstances, walks off stage, has a conversation with his wife, and then he's found dead in his hotel room, I don't know that I would want anything to do with that conversation. Not if I valued my life. So again, I'm not ready to go there. But for the first time since all this first came up, all these conspiracy theories, I have at least opened my mind to the possibility that maybe there is something more here. Maybe there is something to this. I don't know how we ever get to the bottom of it, but my honest belief, and I can tell you guys, you don't always know my political views, and you never will, but I'll tell you this. This is one thing that I truly believe in. And the tribalistic, lunatic fringe of both sides of the political spectrum are both wrong about this. But I think everybody will agree. Everybody's trying to assign motive and cast blame. I don't care who is involved in the Epstein files. Everybody should be held accountable. Everybody. Anybody that victimized these children should be held accountable. Those people deserve justice. And those that were guilty deserve prison. And you've got all this, Ghislaine Maxwell that came from, a family that was known to cut corners and things of that nature. And we've had all these files that people are sorting through now. Everybody involved. I don't care who it is. I don't care what political party they're from. I don't care what their status in life is. I don't care what else they've done with their life. If they were a part of this, they need to go to prison. I think that is something that all good people can agree upon. And I don't care who it is. It makes no difference to me. Everybody that was responsible has to be held to account here. And I think it would probably scare all of us to death if we knew who all was involved. And I think maybe that's a good thing. We always talk about that's the big thing, right? Whoever's in power says nobody's above the law. But it seems like there's a lot of people that are consistently above the law. And it may cost some people their lives in order to bring the truth here. But they ran the Super Bowl ad, where the victims of all of this, the Epstein stuff, came out. And, here's the thing. I don't care who you voted for, but I think we can all agree that we would vote for this, that we would vote for justice. And I don't understand the reluctance to release all these files, and everybody sat on these and said they were a matter of national security. I think what that boils down to is there's probably some payoffs going on over the years. These files aren't new, right? I mean, we've had multiple sitting presidents that have sat on these files, right? So there's enough blame to go around. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a right or wrong issue. And that's the thing with me. I firmly believe that aspect of it. I think that there have been cover-ups for a lot of things over the years. I mean, I still believe in Area 51. I do. So why aren't they telling us? We're paying the freight. And I think the reason people don't tell us is because it would be inconvenient to either them or their donorship. That everybody's looking out for each other, but who's looked out for these kids? Who looked out for these girls? And then you find out that there were some connections to the Pontywood school, and it's just the whole thing just makes me sick to my stomach, man. It does. And I firmly believe that there has to be people held account here. And I know people say, "Well, what a brave stance." Well, then everybody should take it. Everybody should take the same stance in that respect. That this is one thing that we should all be calling for, regardless of who's involved. I don't think none of us should ever defend pedophiles and those that prey upon the young and the weak, no matter who they are. You nor I would get a pass on things that are much minor. And then something of this magnitude. And it's like, well, these people, signed an NDA and they sued. Doesn't matter. People should not be able to escape criminal accountability by settling lawsuits and having people sign an NDA. If you did it, you did it. And people, there's a lot of complications with all this stuff. But again, I don't care if it shuts down Hollywood or parts of the federal government. It makes no difference to me. We'll recover, but we need to have accountability with all that. And I hate to chase that rabbit trail on this show, but when I began to kind of try to connect the dots in my mind, it didn't take a lot of mental gymnastics to kind of get and say, you know what, maybe I've been wrong about this whole thing with Chris Cornell. Maybe. And there's a lot of people that want to argue you down. And I'm like, well, how come it never goes away? Again, just because there's the absence of proof doesn't mean that there's an absence of truth. Right? There may be things that we know to be true that we can't prove. And I think that's an important thing that all good people should unite behind. And everybody involved has to be held accountable. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, we love Campus Bookmart. And why? Because they have the things we want. What do we want? More Mississippi State merch. When it's gift buying time, don't overthink it. Make life easy on yourself. Just get the Bulldogs in your life more Mississippi State merchandise. You'll get that, oh, you know me so well, right? That's such a great feeling, right? When you've given something to someone that you love, that you know that they will love and appreciate for years to come, maybe months to come, who knows? But the reality of it is you can find everything that the Bulldogs in your life desire at Campus Bookmart, with rare exception. Miss Kathy Brown does an amazing job keeping that place outfitted in the newest and greatest and coolest items of Mississippi State merchandise. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you can't make it to town to see them, I would encourage you to visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. And always think of those diploma frames, a very timeless gift for the Mississippi State graduate in your life. They're never going to buy another one, right? Unless they break it. So you buy that, and it's a gift for years to come. It'll sit in their office or their home, and they'll probably display their Mississippi State diplomas in a frame, but you bought them. Cool stuff. All right, Mississippi State beats Ole Miss, always a great thing. And guys, this really was not much of a game. Like, we're covering baseball, but we're keeping up with this. And Jacob Bain went and covered for us. Guys, it was all Bulldogs. 47-28 at the break. They outscore us by 7 in the second half, but State coast to a 90-78 win. But really, it never felt like we were in a bad spot, because Achor comes out and basically says, guys, just get on my back. I got you here. Arguably his best game as a Bulldog, right? Josh Hubbard goes for 32 in 36 minutes. Man, great shooting day for him. 12 of 16, 4 of 6 from beyond the arc, which makes him now the most prolific three-point shooter in the history of Mississippi State basketball. Just 4 of 7 from the line. You expect a better percentage from Josh, but how are we going to complain about 32 points? Handed out 6 assisted, turned it over 5 times. So some room to improve, obviously, but Hub obviously leads us and has great games typically against Ole Miss. We mentioned Achor. He scored the first 11 points. They kind of had to adjust to him. He has just 7 the rest of the way, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 21 minutes. We talk about a very, very, very proficient player in that ball game. Jaden Epps with a dozen in 32 minutes, also pulled down 7 big defensive rebounds. Quincy Bauer did some nice things for 16 minutes, 6 points, made all 3 of his shots, pulled down 4 rebounds, also had a big block. Sean Jones playing great defense for us, pitches in 4 on the offensive side, but leads a team with 8 rebounds. But at the end of the day, it was the Hub show. Bulldogs shoot 58%. 46% from beyond the arc, and just 59% at the line. We're kind of nitpicking there. Malik Dia had a big ball game for them. We expected that. He's been one of the best rebounders on that team for some time. 32 points and 7 rebounds. Also got into a little bit of foul trouble. Outside of that, it was pretty slim. A.J. Storr, we talked about him in our preview. He had 21 points off the bench, 32 minutes. So while he didn't get the starting nod, he played starter minutes, the most minutes for the Rebels. In the ball game, Ole Miss shoots 41.5%, just right at 31% from three-point land, and then 76%. They did a better job getting to the line and converting than we did. But it's always a big deal when we beat Ole Miss. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball, or tiddlywinks. We always want to win the rivalry games. Bulldogs advanced their record to 12-13, 4-8 in the SEC. Ole Miss down to 11-14 and 3-9 in the SEC. Could matter, right, when we get into SEC tournament play. We'll talk more about Mississippi State men's basketball on Wednesday. Chris Jans met with the media today. You can read everything he had to say for free over at genespage.com. That'll be an 8 p.m. tip Wednesday. Broadcast on ESPN2 against Auburn. So, we'll see how things go. And then we got a road game at South Carolina. Man, if we could find a way to go 2-0 this week. Auburn still makes me nervous. They do. Just kind of how life is. They're a very athletic team. And, of course, man, could you imagine if we had Keyshawn Murphy back this year? Like with the problems we've had in the post, if you had Keyshawn, you probably feel a little bit better about life. But we'll talk more about Auburn on Wednesday. But they're at 5-7 in the league, 14-11 overall, and they've lost 4 straight. So maybe getting this game at home and having a little wind at our back after beating Ole Miss helps us a little bit here. And again, a lot of people were expecting Auburn to do some big things this year. Bruce Pearl steps away. Stephen Pearl gets the job. It has not gone well. It has not gone well. And I would like to add to their misery by catching them and really surpassing them with the tiebreaker for the SEC tournament. And again, you kind of look at what's next. And we just have to take this thing kind of game by game. But this is a week that we should be able to make a little hay. At least that's the hope, right? To just kind of make things happen for us. And, again, anytime that you get up and play Ole Miss in anything, it's a big deal. And decent crowd there in Oxford. We had some Bulldogs make the trip, too, and they were rewarded with a win. I know Jacob Bain was the only member of the Mississippi State media that went, and we were very happy to give you guys exclusive coverage over at genespage.com. Everybody else, for the most part in the print media, was at baseball. And that's really what you guys have cared about. So I understand editors out there saying, you know what, we'll just have a stringer go for this, or we'll share the reporting. Neither of these teams really going anywhere fast. But it is a rivalry game, and it's our responsibility to cover all that for you, and so we do. So big ups to Jacob Bain for going over. And Dave Murray was so eager to let Jacob get out of the pavilion. He said, hey, just send me the audio, and I'll get to work on transcribing everything Jans had to say. All right, again, by the time many of you listen to this basketball game will be over. On the women's side, again, at Arkansas, and Arkansas has not been good, as you guys are well aware. That game's tipping off any moment now. But let's take a look and kind of see how the Lady Razorbacks have fared this year. And again, those of you that are fans of the women's game, you are well aware things have not gone well at Arkansas. They are 11-15 overall. They are 0-11 in the SEC and have lost 12 straight games. I think it's pretty safe to say they've lost the team, right? You begin to wonder how much they're really investing. And I think this is one of those scenarios, too. We talk about the rev share situation at Tennessee. They're not going to de-emphasize women's basketball in favor of baseball. At Arkansas, they are. And certainly for men's basketball, too. Arkansas, of course, back-to-back national championships, 95, 96, is that right? Maybe it was after that. I don't remember. But it's been a while. That Scotty Thurman, Corliss Williamson teams, they were great. But looking back, man, Arkansas gets a win over the Lady Texters to open things up. That used to be a really big deal. Mulkey played there. They get Arkansas Pine Bluff, Central Arkansas. That game went to overtime. They ended up winning it by a dozen in overtime. They nip Southeastern Louisiana. They go to Texas Tech, get beat by a dozen there. They get Arkansas Little Rock. A lot of Arkansas right? They go to the Music City Classic and feel pretty good about that. They get Drake in Southern Illinois. You should, right? You should. Those games are very competitive, though. They beat Drake by 7 and get Southern Illinois by 10. They play Harvard. The only other team colors that I wear these days. Harvard gets the Razorbacks in Bud Walton 69-51. What even close. SEC ACC Challenge, Arkansas loses to SMU. And then they get back into some more manageable competition here. They get Jackson State, Missouri State, Kansas City. They get Stephen F. Austin, and then lose to Arkansas State. That's a big deal for the Howl Nation there in Jonesboro. Then they get an SEC play. They get whacked by Vanderbilt by 17. They get destroyed at Alabama 77-48. South Carolina gets them 93-58 in Bud Walton. They go to Tennessee, get beat 85-50. Get beat at Missouri 94-69. Georgia, of course, had a big win over the weekend. Georgia gets Arkansas by 10. They go to LSU, get beat 92-70. Kentucky gets them by 20. Missouri gets them again by 5 in Arkansas. Much more competitive game. And then they go to Florida and then lose at Ole Miss 80-57. So it has not been good in SEC play. And so the reality of it is it doesn't matter who shows up tonight for Arkansas. We have to find a way to win the game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Got to make sure we get it done. And then you start thinking about, okay, where does that put us tournament-wise? Well, we're 17-8. And you start thinking about how realistic is it for us to get to 20 wins and be right there, maybe middle of the pack in the SEC. I think it's imperative for us to be there. And so you think, okay, are there 3 wins left? Well, you get Arkansas, that gives you 18-8. And you feel pretty confident you can get Arkansas. Anything can happen in SEC play, as we know. But the reality of it is that's a game that we probably should be able to count on. And that's a big road win, even though they're not playing well. The win on the road is always good for the RPI. Florida comes in here on Thursday. We'll talk more about that game on Wednesday. We're going to need you to be there if at all possible. That's a 6:30 tip. If you can't make it, you can watch it via the ESPN app on SEC Network Plus. But that's one we got to get. Then you go to Texas. That's going to be tough. You go to A&M, and you got LSU here. So, you win tonight, you find a way to get Florida and A&M, and you feel like those are at worst toss-up games, and even if you drop these to these 2 top 5 teams, that gets you to 20 wins. Yeah, that gets you to 20 wins and gets you to a 7-9 record in the SEC. You're absolutely in the tournament at that point. Of course, we're forecast to be in now. We've got to win some more games to make sure that happens. Just winning 4 SEC games is not going to happen. Not going to work for us. Even winning 5 is not going to work for us. So we're going to have to pick up some more. I think we've got to get to 20 to feel good. You finish 20-10, 7-9. You feel like, you know what, hey, been a pretty good coaching job from Sam Purcell this year. And then we'll see what happens. We absolutely will. But you start working through the SEC standings here, and you begin to kind of consider what our role is in all of this, and we need some traffic to kind of clear around us. That would be helpful. That's an important aspect of this thing too. We do our part, and maybe some other teams will kind of pick some other people off for us and give us a chance to kind of move up in the standings a little bit. We know where we are. We were hoping to kind of be middle of the pack, and we're right there behind like Georgia, Alabama. And so some were expected to win, some were expected to lose. But, you end up right in the meaty part of the curve there with 20 wins. You feel good about that. And, again, you look at this. Arkansas is 0-11 in the league. Texas A&M is 3-9 in the league. Florida is 3-9 in the league. A&M is 10-11 overall. You got 2 teams with losing overall records in the Southeastern Conference, and we play both of them. Is that right? 2? I guess it's 3. Yeah, 3 teams. No, that's right. Yeah, 2. A&M and Arkansas. We get both of them. So we should be able to win both of those games. And, of course, Florida coming in here at 3-9. You feel like you ought to be able to get them. And, of course, LSU and Texas maybe OSU isn't as good as they have been. They had great non-conference record at 14-0, but it's just been 8-4 in the league. That game is here, senior day. Who knows? I think they're a more talented team than us, but they're chasing the possibility of hosting. Texas just 2 games out of first place behind South Carolina and Vanderbilt. And who knew that Vanderbilt would be as good as they've proven to be? But, it's all right there for us. That's one of the most important things, too. We are basically control our own destiny here down the stretch and are playing meaningful basketball on the women's side. So that's an important aspect of this. Every one of us wants to have an opportunity to play in the postseason. You've got a chance to do it now. And you don't have anybody to blame but yourself if it doesn't work out that way. It's just kind of how things are. And you want it in your hands, right? I mean, that's the thing you look at. You begin to think about, I just want the opportunity, of course, to do some big things and make big things happen for myself. I don't want to have to depend on somebody else. I want to be self-reliant. And that's what happens. So hopefully this thing goes the way we want it to tonight, and then we can push ahead and prepare for that home date against Florida. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, especially when you're bringing a large group to town. Now, you can have the whole place to yourself, but where's the fun in that, right? 6 bedrooms, 2 soon-to-be 3 baths, the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, that great back porch area. It's just fabulous. A great place. You just kind of sit and relax and watch the sunset. And that fire pit area out there. Still so nice to be able to sit around the fire and just kind of relax and be together. Maybe turn some music on, and maybe you can sit out there and have an adult beverage. I won't have one, but you're welcome to have one. Now, when you Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, some booking options are going to come up. Right? You're going to have Airbnb, VRBO, but if you book through the Evolve website, and use promo code BSR10, that's BSR10, the number 10, that gets you 10% off your stay. So this great place, 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, is available at your disposal. It's open 365 days a year, whether it's a ball game weekend or perhaps a work retreat. Maybe you just got some vacation time to spend and you think, I want to go to my favorite town, enjoy some of my favorite restaurants and shop my favorite shops, and just enjoy my Starkville-ness. You can do that. Plenty of parking too, so if you want to have like the baby shower effect and have everybody come over, plenty of place, safe parking on the property. You get a lot of people together. Sometimes it's tough, right, to have a nice place to park. Well, you got that there. And again, it's 5 minutes from the Mississippi State campus, just off 182 out past the Highlands, the old renovated Country Club clubhouse. How cool is it that we have that available to us? Be sure and check it out today, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, tennis things going well for us. Softball things are going well for us. I don't know if you've kept up with softball. And if you follow Tyler Braden on social media, there's nobody that, shines more when we win for our student athletes than TV. I mean, he's hung in here through coaching changes. He's done an amazing job. In many respects, he's kind of the life of our program. He truly is. And that's no disrespect to Coach Ricketts. It's not at all what I'm trying to suggest. But he does such a great job recruiting and does a good job promoting the program out there. And incredibly proud of Coach Ricketts. But your softball team's now 10-0. Won all 10, right? 6 home, 3 neutral, 1 true away game. And if you haven't kept up, we took care of Southern Miss last week. That was big. And then we had the Snowman, the Alex Wilcox Memorial Tournament. State gets Murray State in 5, gets Rutgers in 6, and then gets Rutgers 7-2. They get North Texas 3-1, and then North Texas in 5. So over Valentine's Day weekend, the Bulldogs tack on 5 more dubs. Back in action on Wednesday against Memphis. That'll be here in Starkville, so if you're in the area, come by and say hello. They'd love to have you out there. And then this weekend, we've got the Bulldog Invitational, Belmont, Samford, Delaware State, coming in. Hey, we ought to be able to stack up some wins there. All due respect to those teams. But you start working through that and you start thinking, hey, it's a chance for us to stack some non-con wins. And, of course, it gets real sooner rather than later. We will be at Georgia Tech for the 25th. So some important stuff happening. And then, we get into league play a little bit later in this thing, middle of March. But, kind of building some momentum, right? And it's always great when we get out off such a good start in any sport, because all of a sudden you start getting fan engagement. And people that are just casual fans, people just cheer for the logo. It's like, hey, look at this, And I love the fact that we typically do really well in the Alex Wilcox tournament. And maybe it's smart scheduling, but either way, I think to honor her memory, it's a great thing that they do this, and it's something that will probably be a part of the Mississippi State softball experience forever. And one of the things I remember is how incredibly kind the rest of the SEC was. And there is a sorority among those ladies around the league that play that sport. And to lose one of their own, and that's how it looked. Everybody was doing the wall sits and things like that. And then people, of course, wore the ribbons. It's a wonderful thing to honor the memory of one of your own. And I think for all of us, it made the experience maybe a little bit easier to deal with because we didn't feel quite so alone. And that's one of those things you look back in life and you remember who was there for you, right? You remember those things. You remember those faces and those gestures. And that's not just limited to sports. It's just kind of life in general, right? That's an incredible aspect of all of this stuff with the Southeastern Conference. While we root against each other a lot in football and sometimes in other sports because when it's advantageous to us, but at the end of the day, we've got a pretty good family. And we got a few cousins in there. We don't mind them missing the family reunion every now and again. But by and large, there is a community within the Southeastern Conference that I think probably gets underreported. Everybody talks about, all of the rivalry and stuff like that. But when something like this happens, it's a very sobering reminder. There's a bigger thing than it's now come of a ball game. Speaking of ball games, as promised earlier in the show, we're going to play Troy tomorrow night. And again, you can go read everything that Skylar Meade had to say over at genespage.com. You got to be a VIP member, but you can. You can go check that out. Of course, we'll have full coverage Tuesday night from the Dude. But the Trojans 1-2 after the weekend. They dropped 2 out of 3 at Mercer. And as Skylar said, things kind of began to spiral a little bit in Game 2. And they just said, we got to punt to win Game 3. That's kind of how things worked out. They also played a Saturday doubleheader. They lose Game 1, 4-3. Very competitive, one-run Friday night game. Ends up being one of those things that, late in the ball game, it just kind of gets away from you. You wish you're batting last there, but it didn't work out for them that way. And they get walked off in the ninth in a 4-3 ball game. They only had 5 hits. The Game 2, which was the front end of a doubleheader, goes 17-5 in favor of Mercer. And they elected to basically save some arms to salvage a game, and they do. They win 19-3 in Game 3 to come out of there. And, of course, it's smart to go on the road if you're Troy. I mean, you got left out of the tournament last year. And, you got to make sure, we're going to schedule aggressively. And they have. I think this is the most ambitious schedule they've ever had at Troy. A few names to know. Mississippi State's going to start Duke Stone. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to me because he threw 47 pitches over the weekend. Probably will serve as an opener. And then we'll see how things go. We got 5 games to cover this week, so it's going to be a real challenge for your Bulldogs. You got some guys that hadn't pitched yet, like Tyler Pitzer and others, and hopefully they can get some work on Wednesday against Alcorn State, if not before. But Drew Nelson leads Troy with a .545 batting average. Started his career at Auburn. Aaron Pasecki hitting about 500 for him. Not quite as many at-bats, but Stephen Myers, the guy that got us last year, he had that home run in the ninth to beat us. Blake Cavill was the Sun Belt preseason player of the year. He's hitting .083 right now, really off to a slow start. Just got 1 hit and 12 at-bats. Some of that is probably how people are pitching him. On the other side of things, they are going to start Blake Dean, former pitcher from Kansas State. He struggled to throw strikes over there. And you'll get a chance to read about him extensively in the morning at genespage.com. You know, we got some people that feed us some analytics, and we share that with you guys. But he did throw 1 inning in that Friday night game against Mercer. So he's thrown a little bit, but 2 hit batsmen, 2 walks, 1 hit, 1 run, a couple of punch-outs. The spin rate is the big thing with him. That's who we'll see from him, and then they'll kind of go from there. But he wants to get Zach Crotchfeld back out there. He's another former Auburn Tiger. They want to get him out there. And then Hayden Smith, the former Kentucky Wildcat. So they're going to have some guys with Power 4 experience are going to throw at us. And we got to get the offense going. You know, we absolutely have to get the offense going. Let's look around the SEC. And as you guys, we talked about this earlier. Mississippi State up to number 3 in Baseball America poll, still holding firm at 4 in D1 Baseball's poll, which is the one that I tend to favor, to be honest with you. But over the weekend, Auburn wins all 3 of their games against Youngstown State. A couple of those were a little bit tight. Kentucky wins all 3 of their games. I guess it's UNC Greensboro. LSU gets all 3 against Milwaukee. Ole Miss, all 3 against Nevada. Of course, State gets all 3 against Hofstra. Probably the biggest weekend of anybody in the SEC was at Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma goes and wins the Shriners Classic. They destroy Oklahoma State. They beat Texas Tech. And then they get TCU. And looked really good doing it. And offensively, I think they looked better than maybe people anticipated. You know, so Oklahoma was picked toward the bottom half of this league. That may be a surprise. Tennessee takes all 3 of theirs. Texas, of course, gets their 3. A&M gets their 3 against Tennessee Tech. Arkansas went 2-1 on the weekend. And they dropped that game at TCU. There's no shame in just taking 2 in a weekend like that at Globe Life. There's not. Alabama goes 2-1 over the weekend. Florida 2-1. They lose 1 to UAB. Georgia 2-1 over the weekend. They dropped the series finale to Wright State. Missouri, they played Mount St. Mary's. They get 2 of 3. The last one, they set a school record with 34 runs. South Carolina 2-1 on the weekend. And then Vanderbilt. The only team to have a losing weekend was Vanderbilt. And please allow me to go back and say, I told you so. I absolutely told you so. I do not buy this Vandy hype. Now, they may make me look incredibly stupid down the stretch. And there were times last year they got hot late and ascended to the number 1 RPI team in the country. And I think it just shows we're too reliant on that. But it is what it is. But I'm glad that we get them, and I'm glad we get them at our place this year. Let's look ahead here for those of you that are kind of keeping up with college baseball. Arkansas played today, too, against Tarleton State. They win that game 3-1. That's the only action so far. LSU and Kent State will play tonight, and New Mexico State will play Oklahoma. But just kind of looking at your midweek games here, I guess we'll just work through Tuesday because we're going to be back together on Wednesday, hopefully talking about some more Mississippi State wins. Wouldn't that be great? Right? So we'll look to Tuesday here. Let's see here. It's always so interesting. I don't know why we had to mess up the SEC website. I don't know who got paid in that deal. But again, Arkansas knocks off Tarleton State. Kent State will be at OSU. New Mexico State against Oklahoma. And that's a tough thing. You get right back and you go right back to work. On Tuesday, UNC Asheville is at Tennessee. Morehead State is at Kentucky. Alabama is at Samford. Troy, of course, at Mississippi State. Arkansas State will be at Ole Miss. It just won't be the same without Tommy Raffo. Tommy always found a way to make it interesting with Ole Miss and sometimes beat them. Eastern Michigan will play Vanderbilt. South Carolina is at Wofford. Lamar at Texas. Florida will play Stetson. That's a good RPI game. Remember, Stetson used to be a very, very solid mid-major. They were a mainstay in some of those ACC regionals as a 4. Missouri will be at Florida Atlantic. That could get a little bit dicey. A&M Corpus Christi, the Islanders will be at A&M, the Aggies. And then Cincinnati is at Auburn. There were a lot of people last year, some of our college baseball hipsters, who were, Cincinnati needs to be in the tournament and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just how it all seems to work out. So there's going to be a lot to talk about between now and June, as you guys are well aware. And, of course, Mississippi State still in the market for a wide receivers coach. Thought we had one. He ends up leaving us for the Miami Dolphins. That NFL work is good work if you can get it. Yeah, that's just how life works. It seems like if you could ever get to that level, you always stay in. Number one, there's so many jobs in the NFL. And Bush Hampton's had some history there, so he goes up there. But, yeah, it's one of those things, too. You wish we weren't dealing with it, but I'm told that we're not going to promote from within. At least that's not the current plan. And we're already working on it. So hopefully we have something lined up here this week. Wouldn't that be great? It's a very, very busy week, obviously, in Mississippi State athletics. So, we'll see how things kind of shake loose. But we will hire somebody. And the thing that I always think about is when you have to do it at this point, sometimes it's difficult, right? It's because of the fact that people are already settled in, getting ready for spring practice. And but the flip side of it is you're one of the only ones looking, so maybe that becomes a good thing too if you've got a relationship out there. There's not somebody else to run up the bidding war. But typically people make these decisions post-Christmas holidays and then enroll at their new school, even as a coach, in January. So you have the benefit of that aspect of it. So, we'll see what happens. But Jeff Levy will find somebody. I got no doubt about that. And so we'll be excited to kind of be a part of that too. So we're working the story. So far, there hasn't been a lot to report. But we are working the story, and hopefully we'll have some information for you sooner rather than later. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com, and you can get signed copies of all of my sports titles. That's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dog Pile. Every Bulldog needs a copy of that. And The Dude, probably the book that I learned the most during the writing process. I learned a ton writing that book. And I've had so many people that have said, hey, Steve, I got to get the book, man. And I love everything. I've read about it and heard about it. And I had one guy tell me, I won't tell you the name, he said, I learned more reading that book than any book in my life. And that means a lot to me. And I don't know if it's just Mississippi State books or books in general, but either way, that's quite the compliment. And a lot of people are eager for me to go ahead and start on something else Mississippi State related. Well, we will. We're kind of working through some things right now, giving really the majority of my attention to Gene's page and the show. And more to come on that later, too. But all the way, when I think about those books, it makes me happy to know that I've done something that brings joy to the lives of other people. Other Bulldog fans, they have their own books, right? And I'm proud to have been a part of that. Absolutely. Come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. It is a very, very busy operation these days. And I believe she floated 75 plus over the weekend. A couple things you need to know, okay? As I told her, it's you got different problems when you got a thriving business, right? We rarely can accommodate walk-ins. Rarely. Call before you come. Just because of the fact we'd hate for you to come from some distance and not be able to float. We had a situation like that over the weekend. People just didn't know, right? They bought the package, didn't communicate with us, just kind of booked on, or they didn't even book online, they just showed up, not understanding, like, we have a schedule. So you have to have an appointment. Occasionally she can work in, and she will if she can, but make sure you call and talk to her. And if you're a new floater, you have to be there 30 minutes early. You have to be there. I don't know. People don't read the email when they get them. You have to be there 30 minutes earlier. You got to fill out a waiver. There's a lot that goes on. You got to watch a video. There's some instructions, right? And so to make things run a little bit smoothly, please make sure you're there 30 minutes early. And if you're late, and I'm better at handling these situations than she is, if you're late on a day that we have a full schedule, we're not going to let you float. And because if we let you float, then that pushes everybody else late. And if they're on time, they shouldn't have to be encumbered by that. And so I hope that you understand. But let's just all work together and communicate, make sure that we understand what's expected of us and what you can expect from all of us. But if you have questions, call 662-268-7601. Speak directly to Dana. She even answers the phone when she's home. People call sometimes 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. She'll still answer. Sometimes. But yeah, even like during our Valentine's Day celebration yesterday, you had people calling and texting trying to schedule. She still takes the call. It's her baby, and it's doing exceptionally well, and we thank you for that, for sure. Come join us over at genespage.com, the longest running and largest Mississippi State media company in the history of the university. Yeah, big things to come too. Big things to come. I'm so excited about our future. And somebody asked me, Steve, how much longer are you going to do this? I'm like, gosh, I'm 53, right? As long as the good Lord allows me, I got no reason to run off. I love what we do. I don't ever get tired. Been a busy day today. I already got content written for tomorrow and for Wednesday. It's been a busy day, but the reality of it is I want you guys to be the most informed Mississippi State fans in the world, man. Why do you think I go to every baseball game? Why do you think that we call these opposing coaches and interview them? Why do you think we go to everything? Why do you think we had somebody at Oxford on Saturday? Because we knew if we won that game, you guys would want to know exactly what your coach and players had to say. Stuff's important to us, man. It's a passion for us. So come join us over at genespage.com. We do our best to make you happy every single day. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends and enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.